Good afternoon. Finding ways to strengthen Ontario's efforts to combat human trafficking is a major challenge and concern.
Survivors, victim service providers, police leaders, and policymakers join forces at a symposium held in Mississauga. And that's where we find CTV's John Musselman, who joins us now with more on what was discussed this morning. John.
Well, Michelle, this is a very timely symposium coming off the news that Peel Police announced just a couple of days ago that 3 young men in their 20s and a youth were charged in connection with human trafficking of girls as young as 11 years old. This symposium, as you mentioned, is gathering stakeholders here, police, victim services, as well as the victims themselves, so that we can work as one organization to find solutions to eliminating this problem of human trafficking. We did speak to police as well today, talking about some of the numbers. They have seen an increase in large cities like Toronto and the region of Peel, Brampton, Mississauga. Here's what we heard from victim services as well as police.
Human trafficking is a pervasive issue that erodes our very fabric of our society. In the last 10 years, we know from Statistics Canada that over 5,000 human trafficking incidents were reported by police services, and 2/3 of those incidents are happening in metropolitan areas, including the GTA and the Peel region.
The experiences that some of our survivors are suffering through, I really believe it's a violation of human decency. It should not be happening. But again, another reminder of why it's so important to do these investigations, but why we also need to follow them up by supporting the survivors that we rescue.
And that's what part of this symposium is about, Nathan, Michelle, supporting the victims of human trafficking and also talking with policymakers on how to find ways to reduce this issue. Reporting live in Mississauga, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. The 6th of 7 complainants in Frank Stronach's sexual assault trial is taking the stand today. Stronach has pleaded not guilty to 12 charges related to alleged incidents dating from the 1970s to the 1990s. Prosecutors allege he knew the complainants did not consent to sexual activity or was willfully blind to the fact. On Tuesday, Stronach's lawyer questioned the 5th complainant about a number of details in her testimony that she had not previously disclosed to police or prosecutors.
Still to come, U.S. President Donald Trump outlined his vision for America during his State of the Union address last night. We'll have reaction to the lengthy speech a little later in the newscast.
Humber Polytechnic has begun offering staff voluntary exit packages.
It comes as post-secondary schools across the country struggle with their finances. CTV Sean Leathong has been speaking with people on campus and joins us live with more. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, the voluntary employee exit plan was offered to full-time staff at Humber Polytechnic, and it will be until March 9th that they'll have a chance to make the decision whether they want to leave. Now, a letter from the president and Marie Vaughan from Humber College said that they will be, the package they're offered will be reflective of their years of service, and this comes at a time when there's been a tuition freeze up until just a couple of weeks ago for the past 8 years. And a tuition reduction where colleges saying they're having a hard time making ends meet, and there's also been a cap on the number of foreign students allowed in. Now, just 2 weeks ago, the provincial government offered over $6 billion in funding to Ontario colleges and lifting that tuition freeze. Despite this, the college saying they have to make difficult choices. Now, in a letter that was sent out to staff, Humber College President Anne Marie Vaughan said, Humber continues to navigate significant fiscal pressures outside of the investment from the province, including caps on international students, rising operational costs driven by inflation, and the structural impacts of years of constrained funding. These challenges have created a growing strain on our budget. Until now, we've managed this strain through mindful institutional stewardship. Unfortunately, we've arrived at a time when we must make more fundamental choices. Now, a little while ago, Premier Doug Ford was asked about this choice being made by Humber College, and he responded. Here's what he had to say.
We're investing a record amount. No one's ever invested upwards to $7 billion in our colleges and universities. Those are staggering numbers. And I think the world of Humber College They're the largest in the entire country, campuses up in Etobicoke North and down by the lakeshore. But I'm going to repeat this, folks. No one has invested more money into colleges and university than our government, $7 billion. And we just gave them $6.2 billion over 4 years on top of the existing funding. So I wish them all the best. Drive efficiencies, run it like a business, educate our kids for jobs of the future.
So like I mentioned, employees will have until March 9th to decide if they do want to take the voluntary exit plan. From there, the college will reevaluate to see how many people have taken that, and they said they'll have to make more choices beyond that information. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Vaughan City Council has approved its 2026 budget, and it carries no increase in property taxes. Mayor Stephen Del Duca says the budget does not cut services, but does include money to fight traffic gridlock and to enhance community safety. While the City of Vaughan's budget does not increase property taxes, York Region's budget includes a 4.28% property tax increase.
A new survey finds nearly half of immigrant service organizations in the GTA are bracing for program closures due to federal funding cuts that began 2 years ago. The survey, conducted by the United Way and the City of Toronto, found 44% of groups expect to cut programs. Settlement service organizations get federal funding based on projected permanent resident arrivals in a given year, and fewer newcomers means smaller budgets. The director of the Peel Newcomer Strategy Group says many cuts are impacting language training positions, which can be difficult to fill.
A Mississauga City Councillor is calling on the province to require licensing and registration for e-bikes and e-scooters. Ward 7 Councillor Deepika Demerla is introducing a motion calling on the province to treat e-bikes and e-scooters as motorized vehicles. Demerla released a statement saying while she understands there are convenient and affordable modes of transportation, she thinks more needs to be done to make them safer.
The TTC says it could take until Friday to get the 510 Spadina streetcar back into service. Shuttle buses are currently running in place of the streetcars along the route as the TTC works to repair an underground power supply. The transit agency says 600 meters of cable needs to be replaced in underground vaults, with repairs likely set to last until the end of the work week. Well, it was a sloppy commute this morning for drivers heading into and out of the city, and more snow is expected later today.
CB24's Beatrice Vaisman has been speaking with people about the conditions.
It has been an absolute slog of a winter for so many people that I've been talking to outside of Union Station. I think they're really fed up of the constant snowfall. It feels like every time we wake up, you're thinking winter is behind you. Nope, Mother Nature, bringing her wrath once again, bringing us more of this stuff. Yeah, freezing rain, drizzle, snowfall, the record-breaking snowfall a few weeks ago, more than 56 centimeters of snow. And everyone that I've been talking to here today has been dreaming of spring and summer and all the outdoor activities that come with it, the tennis, the golf, the running, the patios, the park visits, and just spending time with family and friends outside. People are really ready for the seasons to change and for the sunshine to come back to Toronto as well. Here's some reaction from Union Station from people who are over winter like I am.
Ready to golf with my buddies, that's for sure. That's a big hobby of mine. Tennis, love tennis, get outside. And I'm starting to get into running. I gotta say, running on the treadmill and you're just staring at the clock, staring at the number, it's a lot more difficult than being outside, so I'm ready to get out there.
Basketball, soccer, football, a lot of stuff.
Being outside?
Yeah. Swimming.
Road trips, beach days, campfires, that kind of thing.
Going out, just relaxing, not having to deal with the terrible wind chill, being able to walk to work. It's a lot easier to walk to work than to have to wait for the bus or take the shuttle when it's like positive rather than negative.
Finally some sun. Just getting outside. Like, I just try to walk every day just to give me a little bit of outside time because that's all I can get.
So this season it seemed like winter was in a hurry to get here. It's been snowy, it's been cold. I just spoke with some visitors from the UK who say that yesterday it was the coldest they've ever been in their lives, never experiencing these kinds of temperatures. Today, of course, a lot more mild. But you know what's even more mild? 24 degrees. Sunshine, summer. Let's manifest it, let's dream it, because hopefully it'll be just around the corner. Back to you.
Thank you, Beatrice. Yes, it is coming, but as we take a live look outside, proof that we still got a ways to go. And while we're not seeing it downtown, there is snow still falling in a number of places. Fortunately, the worst of the system is through with us. Yes, there are more flurries on the way, but Lindsay Morrison, she mentioned it's mild. I mean, relatively speaking.
Yes, and it will get milder this weekend, Michelle, before cooling down again. So yes, we are still flip-flopping a little bit when it comes to winter versus spring, but we're going to choose to focus on some positives here. The measurable snow looks to be finished, but we do still have some flurries in many areas. A little bit of mixing now happening just along the shoreline of Lake Ontario there, so just be mindful of that. And big picture look at the satellite and radar is going to show us, if I can click ahead my boards here, that this system is going to continue to bring us a little bit of ongoing snow through the rest of the afternoon. It's also blowing snow. That's a bit of a concern. Still a couple of weather advisories in place, including this snow squall warning and a special weather statement to the east of Georgian Bay. As for the winds, yeah, they are breezy out of the southwest and gusting in many cases upwards of 40 to even 50 kilometers per hour. Temperature-wise, yes, it is mild. As Michelle mentioned, we're at +2 right now. That actually exceeds our forecast daytime high for today. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and call it a milder day today. Wait until you see just how warm it's going to be on Friday. A full look at your weather forecast is coming up. But for now, Nathan, going to send it over to you.
Thank you, Lizzie. Premier Doug Ford made a stop in Niagara Falls this morning.
The possible amalgamation of Niagara region was one of the things he was asked about. And CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is in Niagara Falls and joins us live with more. Hey, Siobhan.
Hey, the newly appointed chair of Niagara Region started this ball rolling and caused quite a stir across Niagara a few days ago when this conversation first began. Now, Niagara is a collection of 12 different municipalities. About 500,000 people live here. So with those 12 municipalities, you have 12 local governments and then the region as well. The chair argues that that's just become unwieldy. It's resulting, he says, in double-digit tax increases over the span of the last term of council. And he says that needs to stop. The premier seems to be on board with at least starting this discussion, but he says it does have to happen at the local level. Here's more of what he had to say.
I think people are sick and tired of, over a term, double-digit tax increases in one term. Taxes have gone up 25%. I'm going to repeat that, 25%. And for anyone to sit back and say, well, they aren't going to save money. Oh, come on, there's 136, I don't know who you're trying to kid, 136 politicians with a population of about 500,000 and change. So I'm going to look at their proposal, and it has to be led by Niagara. Simple as that.
Now, the premier's number a little off there. The number he's talking about, though, is across the region and the regional government. It's 126 elected officials. At Queen's Park, there are 124 to represent the whole province. Reporting live from Niagara Falls, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Now, Canadian travelers began returning home from Mexico last night following the recent violence in that country.
CTV's Beth McDonnell spoke with travelers about their experiences.
Off the plane from Puerto Vallarta and back safe at Pearson Airport, tourists are sharing accounts of vacations interrupted by a wave of violence, causing widespread shelter-in-place orders and fiery scenes.
It started about 8:15 in the morning. A series of explosions.
Tom Lang says in addition to seeing burning cars following the killing of a cartel kingpin, the pharmacy next to where he was staying in the old part of the city was torched.
Our building was damaged, a lot of smoke damage, and this thing went, and we had to evacuate Sunday night.
Where did you go?
To another flea bag hotel up the street a bit, and everything I'm wearing smells of smoke.
The worst was we had no TV.
This group, meanwhile, was at a resort and became frustrated with the lack of information. The orders meant some couldn't leave their hotels or resorts. After the violence erupted, this woman stayed in her room for a day to be extra safe.
I was in my room watching period 3 of the hockey game, and then it went out because all the TVs went out, right? And so we went out to the pool, and I was trying to get it on my phone, and that's when we all heard the explosion. We did not know what it was. We heard it was a gas station.
Many arriving home brushed off the fires and violence, saying they had a great time, while others experienced moments of unease Sunday, describing the smoke and eerie scenes in the street before calm returned Monday.
It's good to be home, but it was crazy, but not crazy.
It felt very safe, so
and the locals were all trying to keep it as normal as possible.
Most returning travelers say despite the disorder, they plan to visit Puerto Vallarta again.
Not a whole lot of anything. I think social media blew it up a little bigger than it needed to be, and we felt safe.
Will you go back?
Oh, yes. Yeah. We've never been before, but it was better than going to the United States.
It was scary, yeah. We didn't know what to expect. Our whole town shut down. People weren't playing music anywhere. Everybody was just hiding out. I think they handled it really well. It was a horrible, horrible day. You know what? We'll go back, but it's maybe not there right away.
Canadian Airlines grounded flights to and from Puerto Vallarta due to the violence, which resumed in both directions Tuesday. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Meanwhile, the recent cartel violence has raised concerns about Mexico's ability to host the upcoming FIFA World Cup matches. Guadalajara, the capital of Jalisco state, is among host cities for this tournament. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says the matches will go ahead, adding there is no risk to fans. FIFA officials have also indicated they have no intention of changing the venues.
A new report is warning child poverty in Canada is on the rise, reversing years of progress. A recent report found nearly 30,000 children fell into poverty last year. Researchers say the country is approaching poverty levels not seen since 2017, suggesting that at the current pace, it would take nearly 400 years to eliminate child poverty completely. The report makes several recommendations, including strengthening the National Poverty Reduction Plan, boosting the Canada Child Care benefit, and investing more in child care and housing.
Prime Minister Mark Carney will begin a 9-day trade trip tomorrow, making stops at India, Australia, and Japan.
There's a lot of opportunities also for infrastructure investment. There's a lot of things also with a number of companies in India. Same thing in Australia, the Maple Lake. I mean, it's really, it's the urgency we have to diversify.
Liberal MP Matt Genereux, who recently crossed the floor from the Conservatives, will be part of the Canadian delegation. They will be joined by New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt and Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe during the Indian leg of this trip. The Prime Minister's office says the aim is to unlock new opportunities for Canadian workers and businesses, as well as improve regional ties. Meanwhile, top U.S. and Canadian trade officials spoke this morning. This is according to U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer. Greer told Fox Business he'd spoken with his counterpart, likely Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc, and Canada has a few ideas on the future of a deal between the two countries. He also said there are plans to continue in-person talks in a couple of weeks as the CUSMA trade agreement review approaches. U.S. President Donald Trump has mused about scrapping the deal, prompting a bipartisan defense in Washington.
Reuters is reporting that Prime Minister Mark Carney was aware of oil company South Bow's plans to revive parts of the canceled Keystone XL pipeline to the U.S. when the Prime Minister suggested the idea to President Trump in October. South Bow is the Canadian company behind the canceled pipeline. Sources tell Reuters it's considering reviving some of the line that's already been built as part of an expansion project aimed at transporting more Canadian oil to the United States. During his visit to the White House in October, the source says Carney raised the prospect of reviving the pipeline with Trump as part of his efforts to ease the trade tensions between Canada and the United States. A spokesperson for the Prime Minister's office declined to comment on the situation, instead referring questions to the Department of Natural Resources.
Canadian travelers heading to the United Kingdom now need to be aware of some new entry rules that are in place. CTV's Scott Hurst joins us live to tell us more about these new rules. And Scott, changes are in effect today for Canadians looking to travel across the pond to the UK. What do we need to know?
Michelle, the United Kingdom is set to enforce its electronic travel authorization, also known as ETAs. It is a digital permission document that is needed for visitors from 85 nationalities, including from Canada, so it might impact the travel plans of many Torontonians. According to British numbers, in 2024, the UK welcomed just shy of 1 million visits from Canada. The program actually launched in late 2023, but the UK government late last year announced it would begin widely enforcing the travel requirements as of February. So that's what takes us to now, meaning no travel to the UK without advance permission. So here are a few bullet points of what you need to know. As of today is when they will begin enforcing these rules. It's mandatory for all Canadians. It costs only about $30 Canadian, and it's valid for upwards of 2 years. You must apply through the UK ETA app. So now enforcing the requirement will mean that everyone must have this digital permission to enter the country, or else they could be turned away, Michelle.
Now, how might the new changes impact travel plans for Canadians who have dual citizenship?
Yeah, there's been some concern from Canadians who have dual citizenship, and here's what they specifically need to know. They're exempt from needing this travel document. Canadians with British or Irish dual citizenship cannot get the ETA, but to enter the UK, the dual citizens must use either the British or Irish passport or apply for a certificate of entitlement to go with their secondary passport, in this case the Canadian passport. But that's not cheap. That can cost upwards of $1,000 Canadian. Ultimately, dual citizens risk being denied entry to the UK if they're only traveling on their Canadian passport. Here's more from a travel specialist.
Anyone who is considered a dual citizen, as in being born in the UK, or in some situations, if your parents were UK citizens at the time of your birth, those people are no longer eligible to obtain a UK ETA and must travel on a British passport.
So, Michelle, these changes have left some dual nationals scrambling to ensure that they have the proper documentation. In many cases, some dual nationals may have never had a physical passport, a British passport or Irish passport, or they've since let them expire. So now for many, the rush is on to ensure that they have them up to date, or they actually physically have one of those passports, Michelle.
Well, this is good to know. CTV's Scott Hurst, live for us in the National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
The federal government is moving ahead with plans to send humanitarian support to Cuba as the country struggles under a U.S. oil blockade.
At this time, the announcement is $8 million towards international organizations that can support the people of Cuba at this time with aid and other supplies, including food. We will always be looking to do more when humanitarian situations call for it.
Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand said she had not discussed Canada's plans with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. But a spokesperson for her office says Global Affairs Canada officials have spoken with U.S. counterparts. The federal government is still advising Canadians to avoid non-essential travel to Cuba. All Canadian airlines have suspended service to the island until further notice.
The U.S. and Iran are preparing for a new round of talks aimed at diffusing growing tensions over Tehran's nuclear development. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said today his country sees a favorable outlook for negotiations scheduled for tomorrow in Geneva. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to strike Iran if the country doesn't agree to limits on its nuclear program. Tehran's claim those efforts have been peaceful. Iran's parliamentary speaker, meanwhile, said, quote, all options are on the table, both diplomacy and a defensive response that will make the enemy regret its attack. While Trump administration officials are in Geneva, they're also set to meet with a Ukrainian delegation as Washington tries to organize a new round of trilateral talks between Ukraine and Russia. Those efforts are aimed at halting Moscow's invasion. Ukraine's president says it's not clear what would have changed from previous meetings.
The problem is with the political will to stop this war and the question of territories. This is difficult, this is what we have, nothing new. Between us, nothing new. They will try to speak tomorrow, and they will speak, I think, in first days of March trilaterally. I hope that we will have meeting and, of course, exchange of prisoners. This is where we are.
Meanwhile, Germany and Belgium urged Hungary to drop a veto put in place on the latest package of European Union sanctions on Russia and supports for Ukraine. Hungarian PM Viktor Orban is widely seen as close to Moscow and took the step as he faces a tough re-election race.
U.S. President Donald Trump laid out his vision for America during the longest State of the Union address in recent history.
Trump spoke at length about what he sees as his victories while also attacking his enemies. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has the details.
This was a lengthy State of the Union address, the longest in history, in fact, 108 minutes. And the president pretty clearly hit a theme early on in this address and, spent the rest of the speech talking about everything he and his administration have done, trying to underpin one of those opening statements. An early moment, to me, kind of stood out as setting the tone for the rest of the speech. Here's what the president had to say early on.
Our nation is back, bigger, better, richer, and stronger than ever before.
The president would go on to talk about all of the successes he believes he and his administration have had since taking office. He talked about everything from the economy to immigration to housing to inflation to trade and tariffs, of course. A lot of talk about what he is doing for the American economy and what he believes is being done through trade policies and specifically through tariffs. The president championing those tariff policies, despite the fact just last week the U.S. Supreme Court struck down some of the tariffs that the president had imposed, specifically the IEEPA tariffs for the purpose of here in Canada, the fentanyl-related tariffs. He talked about how he believes those tariffs are collecting all kinds of revenue from, other countries, while, in truth, it is the American people that are paying those tariffs. Here's a little more from the president on the tariff policy specifically.
As time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love.
The Democrats were quick to point out after the president's speech, they were critical of his speech, of course, but quick to point out the fact that those tariffs that he referenced are actually costing the American people because it is the American companies that are paying, of course, those tariffs that are being imposed. The president stuck to the messaging throughout this script, really only veered off on script when he chose to criticize the Democrats in the room, who at points were not standing up to cheer and clap when he felt they should have been. This was a speech that really, saw the president highlight the work he and his office have done and will continue to do ahead, of course, of the very important November midterms, where the president's numbers so far are not very good. Michelle and Nathan, back to you.
Pink Shirt Day, the annual anti-bullying campaign, is being marked across the country.
The first perspective that we got to challenge is this idea that snitches get stitches, because that concept continued to keep a group of students quiet while their colleagues are being physically and verbally abused and nobody's doing anything about it. And the last one is this idea that asking for help is a sign of weakness. And every time I share this, I get really emotional about it, because when I go to the school, there is a lot of pain between these walls of the schools. The level of suffering that these kids are going through. Our generation of youth have never been more isolated and more lonely than before. So there is a need to continue to empower them and encourage them to ask for help.
Pink Shirt Day was first organized by a group of students in Nova Scotia in 2007 as a show of support for a boy who was bullied for wearing pink. The anti-bullying campaign is recognized across the country and in New Zealand. The Pink Shirt Day organization has raised more than $3 million for anti-bullying initiatives since 2008.
Well, another day, another round of shoveling to be done here in Southern Ontario, and specifically here in Toronto. Yes, it has been a very snowy winter. Here's a look at how much snow we've had so far. More than 177 centimeters, and that was as of yesterday. Compare that to this time last year, we'd had about 50 centimeters less. Not much more in the way of accumulating snow for today. Blowing snow perhaps will be a greater concern, and then some localized areas will see a little more accumulation within some snow squall bands. Here's what I want to talk about, though. Tonight's sunset is going to be after 6 p.m. We have to celebrate the little victories, don't we? We're going to take a look at your forecast heading into the weekend after the break here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400. From your screen to ours. Text 10400.
All right, to the forecast, we had a little bit of snow, but nothing major, although we've had a pretty major month.
We have. I think people are like, okay, that wasn't too bad. You know, it seems like the roads are largely wet, and but there are some more flurries. There's a little rounds of this.
Yeah, we're not quite done. It doesn't feel that major because, well, we've seen major this winter, and maybe in an ordinary winter, today's approximately 5 centimeters of snow would have felt more significant, but we've still got some flurries out there. Yes, you likely have a little bit of shoveling to do, or you had to brush off your car early this morning. This afternoon, we're looking at some breezy winds that could blow some of that snow around, but I will say the next couple of days look to bring us more in the way of sunshine, and Friday, in addition to some sun, is looking very mild. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm, the injury lawyers you don't pay unless they win. It is still a good day to get outside, maybe run your errands, a few flurries flying, but again, not looking at much in the way of measurable snow for the rest of the day today. And at least here locally in the GTA, any snow that's falling shouldn't reduce visibility too greatly. That's more of a concern the closer you get, once again, to the shores of Lake Huron, as well as to the east of Georgian Bay. Snow a little more intense there, blowing snow still a concern with some pretty gusty southwest winds at this hour. Here's a big picture look at our satellite and radar. Tomorrow is going to be a quieter day. We do expect some sun, mixed with cloud cover, and then Friday perhaps a little burst of snow. We'll show you what that looks like on the forecast radar, but here's later on today. Again, some localized squall lines could result in a couple of additional centimeters of snow in some areas, but here in the GTA we're pretty quiet right through the day tomorrow. And then Friday, there's the little burst of snow that I'm talking about. Again, shouldn't amount to a whole lot. And then the weekend is looking pretty quiet as far as any active weather is concerned, but a bit of a temperature swing is expected to happen. So first, let's talk about winds. They're coming out of the southwest right now. We will tap into more of a westerly wind that will be breezy through this afternoon and evening. Then things do settle down for tomorrow and for Friday. We're at +2 degrees this hour at Pearson Airport. Similar conditions in Windsor. A little bit cooler in and around Ottawa, where it's -7 degrees, -5 degrees in North Bay at this hour. Here's your almanac. So +2 is now the seasonal norm. So we are where we expect to be at this time of year. Overnight tonight, a little chilly once again, -9 for the low. Wind chill back into the minus teens. And then tomorrow at a glance, -2 for the high, mix of sun and cloud. Again, quiet conditions pretty well across the board here in southern Ontario. Let's talk about this 7-day forecast, because as we look ahead to the weekend, we are eyeing a high of +5 degrees for your Friday. Again, chance of a few flurries, but hopefully also some nice sunny breaks. Over the weekend, light mixing going to be possible on Saturday, with the temperature still up around 4 degrees. But overnight, colder air filters back in. And then Sunday, daytime high of only -5 degrees. Overnight low back in the minus teens. So suddenly it feels like winter once again. But we're not looking at any major weather systems, just the chance of flurries for Sunday and perhaps next Tuesday as well. That's the weather for now. Nathan, going to send it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Lindsay. The Maple Leafs will be back in action tonight for the first time since the NHL's Olympic break. The Leafs will return to play in Tampa, facing off against the Lightning. The team entered the Olympic break on a 3-game winning streak and will look to continue that success. The Leafs are currently second to last in the NHL's Atlantic Division, while the Lightning are in first. Puck drop tonight is set for just after 7:30.
The Raptors will be looking to get back in the win column when they take on the San Antonio Spurs tonight.
In for Quick. Here's Shed. The free! Shed, the free jack!
The Raps were in action against the defending NBA champion Oklahoma City Thunder last night. The Thunder beat the Raptors 116-107, despite being without Hamilton native and reigning MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Tonight's game against the Spurs is set for just after 7:30 at Scotiabank Arena.
An auction for a piece of hockey memorabilia valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars wrapped up yesterday. One of the jerseys Wayne Gretzky wore during his final NHL game was up for grabs. Gretzky played his last game as a member of the New York Rangers against the Pittsburgh Penguins on April 18, 1999. He wore a different jersey in each period of the game. The jersey's owner says the one being auctioned was worn during the pregame ceremony and the first period. The winning bid was for more than $500,000.
Still to come, healthcare advocates are calling for action to reverse a concerning cancer trend. We'll have more on the push to eliminate cervical cancer when we return.
Healthcare advocates are in Ottawa today calling for action to reverse a concerning cancer trend. Cervical cancer is the fastest growing type of cancer in the country, and experts say it's almost completely preventable. The Women's Health Coalition of Canada and the Society of Gynecologic Oncology of Canada are among the groups pushing for better detection and prevention of cervical cancer. Most cases are caused by HPV, and there is currently a highly effective vaccine available. Canada has a goal of eliminating cervical cancer by 2040 by vaccinating 90% of kids under 18.
A new campaign from Childhood Cancer Canada titled Let's Face the Unimaginable is outlining the situations facing families whose children have received a cancer diagnosis.
You say you can't imagine your child being diagnosed with cancer, but you can.
More than 10,000 families in Canada are currently caring for a child with cancer, with an average of 6 new diagnoses each day.
The first reaction you're telling someone outside of your circle that, you know, your child is cancer, they immediately go to, I can't imagine what that feels like. And it's almost, that sort of stops the conversation, as opposed to driving people into it. Because really you can. And I mean, these parents, these caregivers, these siblings, like, there's not anything that they wouldn't do to help their fighting family member to overcome their cancer. And so this campaign and you know, everything we've built thus far is trying to shine a light on the stuff that exists outside of that diagnosis.
You can learn more about the campaign at childhoodcancer.ca.
Still to come, chipmaker NVIDIA is set to share its results at the end of the trading day. We'll have more on the forecast for the world's most valuable company.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Stocks on both sides of the border are in the green so far today, as a major player in the artificial intelligence space plans to share its results. Chipmaker NVIDIA will share its report after trading ends for the day at 4 p.m. Analysts are forecasting another blowout for the company for the period covering the end of 2025. Estimates suggest profits will be up nearly 70% from a year earlier to more than $37.5 billion U.S. If that number turns out to be accurate, that'll mean NVIDIA made more than $400 million per day during the 3 months through January 25th.
Canadian regulators have now approved all models of Gulfstream business jets. This comes less than a month after the aircraft were the focus of a threat by U.S. President Donald Trump. Transport Canada certified the Georgia-based company's G700 and G800 jets on Monday, 8 days after greenlighting 2 older Gulfstream models. The move allows the jets to be sold in Canada and opens a new commercial door for the plane maker, a major rival of Bombardier. Last month, the U.S. president threatened to ground and slap tariffs on Bombardier planes and any other Canadian-made aircraft if Ottawa did not certify the Gulfstream jets.
A Toronto-based developer is building a new 24-story student housing building in downtown Guelph.
The structure was previously owned by Conestoga College, and there is hope it will help address the city housing crisis. CTV's Alexandra Hollick reports.
This 3-story office space could soon become Guelph's tallest building. A Toronto-based developer is looking to turn 70 Fountain Street into student housing.
We're just going through the rezoning process right now. We are getting close with the city to do a 24-story building, so 420 plus or minus units.
Fitzrovia is fulfilling plans proposed by the property's previous owner. Conestoga College bought the building back in December 2024, but ended up selling less than a year later. As our needs continued to evolve, the college evaluated options and subsequently determined the most responsible path forward was to sell the property to a developer positioned to move forward immediately with residential development, a college spokesperson told CTV News.
We approached them directly and gave them an offer, and they've been very straightforward to deal with, which we really appreciate.
The next steps include a stamp of approval from the city, which could take months.
We very much view our investment in any city that we operate in as a long-term hold.
If the plan is approved, construction would start in September of next year and would wrap up in spring 2030, just in time for students to move in before the fall semester.
It's going to be geared to students at both Conestoga and the University of Guelph.
Fitzrovia CEO Adrian Roca says he hopes the new build will take the pressure off the city's housing crisis by moving students into the high-rise and out of single-family homes.
We think that will open up single-family rental to owner-occupiers that live in a city like Guelph to buy those homes and not have it, taken up by student housing.
City Council is expected to discuss the proposed development here at 70 Fountain Street at a planning meeting 2 weeks from today on March 10th. Alexandra Hollick, CTV News, Guelph.
Heated rivalry fans will have to wait a bit longer for the next chapter of the popular book series, as author Rachel Reed says she's pushing back the release date of the upcoming installment. The next book will now be released in June of 2027 as Reed's Parkinson's symptoms have gotten worse.
And it's made it difficult physically to write, so I'm definitely a lot slower, and that's just something I need to learn how to navigate and kind of face instead of ignoring. And for all of these reasons, I've decided to move the publication date for Unrivaled to June 1st, 2027. I hope that's not too long a wait for everyone. I just needed a few more months for writing.
The new book, Unrivaled, is the third in the series. The book serves as the basis for the popular Crave television series, Heated Rivalry. The upcoming book will continue the story of the relationship between hockey players Shane Hollander and Ilya Rozanov.
Heavy metal band Metallica have announced plans for a Las Vegas residency at the city's iconic Sphere. Rumors have been swirling the band was planning to set a few dates at the Sphere. Now, today, Metallica confirmed they'll play 8 nights there, Thursdays and Saturdays throughout the month of October. The announcement says the band will play music spanning their 40-year catalog, enhanced by the venue's immersive technologies. Tickets go on sale March 6th.
Coming up, providing a platform for Black voices in comedy. We'll have more on the man behind a nationwide comedy tour.
A Montreal-based comedian is working to give more Black voices a platform in Canada's comedy scene.
He created a comedy tour that's been making people laugh across the country. CTV's Sweeta Rassi has more.
For Rodney Ramsey, the stage isn't just a place to tell jokes. It's where he found his purpose.
I fell in love immediately. It was exactly what I wanted in life, and I just never stopped.
More than 2 decades later, he's still going, turning his everyday experiences into laughter.
What it's like to be a Black man living in society, racial, economical, all that stuff.
But along the way, he noticed something was missing. He says while Montreal does have a strong comedy scene, especially in the French community, space for Black English-speaking comedians is limited.
There's no tour for Black comics. There's tour for everything, right?
So he co-created one called the Underground Comedy Railroad. He says it's the first all-Black comedy tour in Canada. Now in its 14th year, each February, it coincides with Black History Month, with Black comedians embarking on a nationwide tour, hitting as many cities as they can. Ramsey says building that platform was about providing opportunity for those who might not always have it.
Sometimes they won't book more than one Black comic because they think it's too much Blackness.
He's also sharing what he's learned teaching comedy at the Comedy Nest, as well as through virtual reality, helping a new generation find their voice.
But stand-up can be taught. Anybody can learn it. Everybody at some point in their life has made another person laugh.
And while Ramsey says the hustle can feel constant, there's a reason why he keeps pushing.
Doing this tour, it makes me feel like I'm a part of Canadian Black history as well.
A reminder that history isn't just something to remember, it's something that's still being made. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
All right, we'll have to see when that tour comes to Toronto.
Definitely. What's coming to Toronto right now? Well, it's actually calm, but flurries are on the way this afternoon.
Yeah, perhaps a little more snow coming to Toronto this afternoon, more so in the form of flurries. I will say that there's a little more snow coming to you if you're joining us from Orillia, Washago, perhaps Fenelon Falls area too. That's what we're seeing on the satellite and radar. Environment Canada expanding a special weather statement to include those communities with 2 to 4 centimeters expected this afternoon. But here in the GTA, traced to maybe an additional centimeter of snow. Things settle down overnight tonight. The flurries will end, but the cold returns. -9 degrees for the low, feeling like -17 overnight. Tomorrow, we are back below freezing, but still not too far off the average mark. And we are anticipating a mix of sun and cloud, which would be welcomed. Friday, forecast daytime high 5 degrees and then perhaps 4 on Saturday. It is, however, going to become cold again for Sunday. In fact, as early as Saturday night, we will likely be feeling the chill, but more so Sunday morning and Monday morning. Going to keep an eye on a couple of days there for some flurry activity, but no major snowstorms expected over the next 7 at this point. Nathan and Michelle.
All right, good to know. Thanks, Lindsay. And that's it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.